climate movement a number of times during his speech. I'm interested to know where they are. I guess that's my first point. There is no climate movement in Australia. Let's not pretend otherwise. There are people doing amazing work. There's you folk, there's AYCC, who I would single out, the Youth Climate Coalition folk, doing proactive stuff. There's the Cons Council network, there's ACF, and then there are kind of grades into the more business end of the spectrum, like what they call Climate Institute and so on. A handful of folk doing good research and policy work. But there's no movement. The climate movement in this country at the moment is being run by Tony Abbott, and it's designed effectively to crash the government and send a very, very strong lesson on behalf of the coal and gas industry that a government that attempts to take on any kind of meaningful climate policy will find itself in opposition very rapidly. So I think it would be wonderful if there was a climate movement that was out there making the Greens look moderate, but it's not there. During the CPRS debate, we found ourselves painted as extremists because the movement had basically split. A bunch of the NGOs and the PIGs had gone on and said the Rudd program was fantastic. A bunch of others had kind of carved off and said, no, this is crap, there's no way we can support this. But the kind of public narrative follows a little bit along the lines of the Just Say Yes campaigns. A bunch of people out there have been told all their lives climate change is a big deal, we need to do something about it. Just pass something. It is kind of unhelpful to us to have the climate movement, such as it is, running a Just Say Yes to anything campaign. It seriously weakens our negotiating position. If the government is aware that, you know, the general public who still think this is a real problem, and we've lost a lot of people to the kind of deny movement in the last 12 or 18 months, the government knows that our negotiating hand is weakened by a movement that says just pass anything at all. The alternate voices in the debate, some of them represented tonight, are saying this is all crap, none of it's good enough, don't go near markets, you have to start again and reduce emissions by 5% a year, and effectively sideline yourselves and play yourselves completely out of the debate, which I think is a shame, because we need people more radical than us, to the left of us, to make us look moderate, and there's nobody there at the moment. So the politics of it are pretty different, are pretty difficult. I think the proposal that's on the table, I strongly support. I strongly disagree with the proposal that it's a bucket of poison, put it that way, and I wouldn't be voting for it. The key difference, if you will, between this and the CPRS is the CPRS will lock us in until around 2020 or the mid-2020s with creating permits effectively as a property right, and at no point could a future Parliament have raised the target without being taken to the High Court for a gigantic compensation. This kind of flips it around the other way, and this is not a great package, by the way. If we'd written it, it would have been substantially different. But it came out of a consensus process against quite a difficult political backdrop in which, if anybody had walked, the whole thing would have crashed and we'd been left with nothing. Some of you might think nothing would be better than what we've got, and I'll just have to agree to disagree with that. What we do have is a big whack on the biggest polluters in the country to transfer $13 billion across to build the new platform. There's a lot of stuff in here about public funding, public infrastructure, public ownership, but I suspect when I read it in detail, you won't say where the money comes from. We think it should come from the companies that are dumping the stuff into the atmosphere for free. If that means we're intervening in markets, then so be it. I think if this was the bucket of poison and the pointless gesture that Alex is suggesting, I don't think we would be seeing industry fighting it as though it was an existential crisis. You know, they're pretty good at playing shadow puppetry and putting themselves up on the wall to be bigger than they are. But they are fighting, the coal and gas industry is fighting this thing absolutely tooth and nail and are determined to smash the political fortunes of the government and us. And I think if it was a completely empty gesture, I'm not sure they would be fighting quite as hard as they are. Anyway, I'll leave it there and pick it up in Q&A.
Thanks, Todd.